of all the reactions tonight, this one trumped them all. This was just gigantic. When he walked out, this place exploded. Austin walks out with the jean shorts, the trademark knee braces, and an Austin 316 shirt, and he just soaks it all in. He's on the stage, walking back and forth, and then he goes backstage and he returns on the ATV and he just roars down this stage with it. Owens is the one to finally cut the music as Austin's in the ring and tells Austin to take a seat. Austin responds, telling Kevin Owens that he looks like a jackass who's been running down Texas, and Owens explains his rationale for hating Texas. It's hot in the summer. The land is flat and uninspiring, unlike Canada. You wear stupid hats in this state, belt buckles. If I grew up here, I would have just moved to Mexico. It's right there. The crowd starts chanting asshole at him, and he goes on to tell Austin that he is a distinguished French Canadian. Like, just what could possibly anger this Texas crowd more than a distinguished French Canadian? But he explains he tricked Austin. He's not here to talk. He's looking for a fight, and he challenges Austin. He knows it's been 19 years since his last match. You have shot knees, a shot back, and a shot neck. But other than that, you're fine. And there's no reason for you to turn this down. And I suggest we have a no-holds-barred match. But I know that you're looking at me and you can't beat this guy. So why don't you take your beer and your golf cart and go back to your stupid ranch? And Austin, he's boiling. He's sitting here. The crowd is going nuts for him. And he says, I had my first match in Dallas. Maybe I could have my last match in Dallas. He asks the crowd, hell yeah. And he is ready to take out this sack of shit.
Listen, okay, this was not the best material that I've ever heard from a heel insulting somebody's hometown. It was not the best way that I've heard somebody antagonize another wrestler into a match. It was pretty much like pretty basic stuff, and
all this was doing was
didn't
making
matter.
the fans
it didn't
wait
matter.
to anticipate what they knew was going to happen.
He could have come out and like farted for like 5 minutes. I would have been just as excited because I knew at some point Steve Austin was going to get physical at some, some significant level, in the main event of WrestleMania. So it's all to say, like, this build has been about, as basic of a generic wrestling build as you could have had. Like, I hate your hometown. And why do I hate it? Because of these signature things that are attached to your hometown. But it didn't matter because, again, yeah, it was just to make us delay and build anticipation for this moment.
Austin calls for a ref and the bell rings and this place is going nuts. Steve Austin's first match since March 30th of 2003 when we were in high school. And do you realize that when Steve Austin had his last match, he was our age?
Shut the fuck up. Oh my God, that is weird.
The age game's the worst. It's just the worst.
Oh man, I hate that.
Yeah.
You're really making me assess what I've accomplished.
Yeah.
Thus far.
As 1-year-old Julia Hart was, I'm sure, watching on pay-per-view.
Just stop. Can you just please?
So Austin just attacks him with strikes. He's stomping him in the corner. I mean, he's going at like, it's not like a rapid pace here at the beginning. He's really just, I think, kind of getting acclimated to the fact that he's doing physicality here. There was a very light Irish whip reversal on the floor, and
the slow pace I felt like was intentional to start, don't you think? Because he ended up going pretty fast with the stomp.
He picked up on the stomp. It was more so the Irish whip on the floor. It was like he did a reversal, and it was just like, you can see, like, this is a guy that had like spinal stenosis. You know what I mean? Like, this is someone that is not, looks fantastic. He looks in tremendous shape at 57.
But kept the shirt on, we should say.
Did keep the shirt on. You're right. Yeah. And they're brawling on the floor. Dude, Kevin Owens, I mean, goddamn, he takes an inside out lariat. This was the structure of the match. Steve, you do whatever. And I'm going to make you throw a 5. I'm going to make it look like a 20. Okay. Yeah. That's what this is going to look like. I'm going to do everything in my power to make you look like Steve Austin. This was like, the Crusher coming back in Milwaukee or Jackie Fargo coming out of retirement. Like, this was just the legend coming back, and you had a heel that was going to bump his ass off for Steve Austin.
Completely. Yeah. That was Kevin Owens' job tonight. I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna say like that this was like Kevin Owens wrestling this wrestler, because it would be an insult to Steve Austin. Steve Austin gave a lot, but it was kind of like Steve Austin almost wrestling the Invisible Man here, because he did everything for this dude to make him look incredible, and he deserves all the accolades.
They did more than I expected. Like the vertical suplexes on the floor that Austin took when like I did not expect to see something like that. Austin, I mean, this was probably every wrestling fan's most enjoyable product placement, because he just drank beer after beer of his new Stone Cold Lager, whatever it's called.
It's great product placement. It's also a great way to stay hydrated. Yes.
Is that does beer work when you're in the midst of an athletic endeavor?
Beer is a lot of beer, content in beer is water. Yeah, but I mean, I guess
some carbs.
Right.
Yeah. So he just is drinking and drinking. Owens tries to leave on his ATV and he can't get the thing to start. So Austin nails him, sits behind him, and drives this thing up the stage. I thought they were just going to crash into the set. I didn't know what they were going to do here. He stops it and they fight on the stage, and we get more. We get 2 vertical suplexes on the stage, and then he rolls Owens down the ramp, has 2 more beers, and then in the ring, Owens catches him with a stunner. And dude, there were people in this crowd that believed that Steve Austin was going to get pinned with his stunner. He kicks out and the crowd is cheering. He's alive. And
I wouldn't have put it past them to, I mean, yeah, now that I think about it.
There was no way they were beating Steve Austin with the stunner in Texas to close WrestleMania. There was no goddamn way that was happening.
It's to show you maybe how much I got sucked into all this, because I thought, oh, okay, yeah, well, he's putting over the guy who's sticking around. Why not? But no, you're right. There's no way.
Owens gets a chair, does the Kurt Angle special, misses, bounce off the rope, nails himself in the head, stunner, and Austin pins him in 13 minutes and 56 seconds. Afterwards, he's doing the beer celebration, hits Owens with another stunner, and the Texas officers come and escort Kevin Owens out. And Austin says it's good to be back in Texas. That's the bottom line. And then, as a make good for my money, the worst segment in Steve Austin's career was that 316 day in the empty performance center with Byron Saxton. He brought Byron in to give him a stunner to erase the memory of March 16th, 2020. And they can never reference that awful segment again. And then one of Steve's brothers got into the ring as well. And that's how the show ended. This was not about being like some great wrestling match. That's totally missing the point of this. This was an experience for every fan in this arena that loved this, that got to see something they did not expect in terms of an actual match. This was probably the pinnacle of Kevin Owens' career that he'll be talking about 40 years from now. And I mean, it was just like a great send-off to the show. It was its own thing. And this crowd, they were here to see Steve Austin. And they got way more than they bargained for.
Exactly. You underpromise and you overdeliver, which I think was the philosophy tonight. This was so much fun watching, John. Yes, it was not the best match of the show. Did Steve Austin look as good as he did 20 years ago? No. Nobody can, unless you're Chris Jericho, perhaps, but
this was also not that performance where you come back and you regret doing it, which I'm sure was Steve's hesitancy.
Well, Brett, that's Shawn Michaels, for that matter, like in Saudi Arabia. Absolutely. Like, all that aside, like, you're right. Like, this was the level of performance that I think was more than enough to...
taking those vertical suplexes on his neck and back, like frankly, he did not need to do that. I don't think he needed to do that at all. That was certainly above and beyond what was called for here.
He didn't need to, but above everything, these two successfully for what was it, like 15 minutes, Sean?
It was just under 14 minutes, bell to bell.
For 15 minutes. I was as giddy as a little kid because I got to see Stone Cold Steve Austin in an official wrestling match in the main event of WrestleMania. This to me is like, it's like suddenly getting a new song by the Beatles. It might not be as good as what's on Abbey Road, but it's still pretty damn cool, right? And you're going to remember it because it's Stone Cold Steve Austin, man. So they pulled it off, I thought. Hats off to Kevin Owens. I thought he earned every bit of that main event. I don't know if there was a better person to put in that position. And we, like I see this match, and like I think my expectations for like, what Steve Austin will do afterwards are a bit more tempered coming off of this. I don't think he's going to come back to like for a run or anything like that. I don't even know if he's going to come back for another match. But for one night, he certainly did enough to, create an incredible memory for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think it totally delivered in terms of a big moment to end WrestleMania with. And I've got to say, like for the first night of WrestleMania, I think between the Belair and Becky match, Cody and Seth, you got the big Austin match on top of it. Like that was enough for me that I would peg this as like a thumbs up show just on those three things alone.
Yes, I really enjoyed this WrestleMania. Like, no doubt in my mind that it was a thumbs up show. And in fact, I think limiting the show to what, like 7 matches and having one,
it made a
2,
big difference.
3.
I think if we had 14 matches, I think there would have been a lot of fatigue throughout this. And I think if you were, I think it would have been a lot tougher. I think it would have been a lot tougher if we were talking about like a 6.5 hour show, clocking in at like 13, 14 matches.
When we're strictly talking about in-ring content, I don't think there was anything bad. Well, okay. So one caveat, of course, being the Usos versus Nakamura and Boogs.
Which is almost an incomplete. It was it was out of their control. I thought Corbin and McIntyre over-delivered what I expected. Mm-hmm. You got Logan Paul, who performed very well. For a celebrity match, I think no one was complaining about that. Then you have Becky and Belair, Rollins and Cody. You drop the tag match. Charlotte and Ronda, I think they have a better match in them, but that was hardly like perfectly satisfactory. Mm-hmm. And then you had the main event, which is going to be probably that and Cody, the biggest memories of this show years from now.
Yeah, I thought pretty much everything over delivered, except for maybe if you want to maybe complain about that Ronda Charlotte match, or maybe that was either, to me that was about
there was rough elements to that match. Yeah,
that was my expectation level, right? But like everything else, like on the show, to me over delivered, and I can't. I think this was a great WrestleMania. Absolutely. So
let's do a whole nother one tomorrow.
Well, that'll be the question. Can tomorrow now live up to tonight?
Yeah, is it going to be the did you notice on SmackDown that Pat McAfee, he just dropped WrestleMania and called Lesnar and Reigns the biggest match ever? It's not even the biggest WrestleMania match now. It's just like, well, why stop it there? We can just go all the way at this point. It's the go-home show.
Well, is it bigger than Edge versus Randy Orton? That's the question.
That's right. The most stupendous match.